Welcome everybody, I'm Jerry Casados. Thanks for joining me for this class today on type 2 diabetes. Actually, we'll discuss all diabetes, type 1 and type 2. So this will help you if you're interested in how to prevent and reverse it. There's some good information here. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen now. And start the presentation here. Okay, here we go. Get going. Just the full disclosure here, disclaimer, just that this information is for educational purposes only, and seek advice from your physician and other qualified professionals if you will have any questions about your medical condition. And also, if you're changing your diet, be sure to, and on medications, be sure to talk to them and tell them what you're doing, and that's important. So a little bit about me. I'm Jerry Casados, of course. I'm a nutrition therapy practitioner, certified in plant-based nutrition from Cornell University and T. Colin Campbell Foundation. Also certified instructor for the Dr. McDougall Start Solution program. And I have some private nutrition practice, and I've been plant-based now for 13 years. So I've been doing this for a while, and I did it for health reasons of my own. And I'll get into that here. I'll tell you a little bit about my health journey and why I changed to a whole food plant-based diet. My health issue, I had heart disease. I had high cholesterol, high blood pressure. I was asymptomatic, but I thought I was healthy. I was on medications, Lipitor, blood pressure meds. Hold on a sec. Here we go. How to do that. And on 3 blood pressure meds. But in February 2007, I did an EBT heart scan, which showed progression of heart disease. And I did one 5 years prior in 2002, just to see where I was at, because I was on the medications and there's a history of heart disease in my family. And so I was very well aware of that. And but the calcification score, which is a marker for coronary artery disease, increased from 50 to 75 percentile range, which the higher the number, the more calcification you may have in your arteries. So that wasn't a good thing. So my doctor recommended I do a nuclear stress test, which is where they shoot some fluid in your veins and they watch the blood flow through your arteries and through your heart. And they saw a dark spot on the left side, which wasn't very good. So my physician and cardiologist recommended I do an angiogram. So that's where it's an invasive procedure, and they go in and look at your heart and see if they see any problems. They could do a stent or whatever, not real sure. But I declined the angiogram just because it's invasive, and I didn't really care for that idea too much. So my doctor wasn't too happy with that. So probably want to ask, why would I decline the angiogram? Well, something struck me when he was telling me that I should do this. He was really pressuring me to do it. But I had some information and I found in 2002 about reversing heart disease. So that was always in the back of my mind, because I was very anxious about the angiogram. So he wasn't real happy. I told him that I wanted to come back, and I had this, what we call aha moment, of course, where I had this moment where I read a book in 2002 that told me you can reverse heart disease with diet. And it was because knowledge is power. Now, I was lucky I had that, or otherwise I don't know what would have happened if the angiogram, and who knows, my health would have been back then. So I decided on a lifestyle approach instead. Oatmeal versus angiogram, a novel idea. the reason I read this book in 2002, the McDougall program, 12 Days to Dynamic Health by Dr. John McDougall. I'm sure most of you are familiar with him, I hope. But I followed the 12-day program in 2002, but back then there was a lot of plant-based stuff, vegan stuff around. So it was difficult. So I kind of modified and never really kept it up and kind of dropped off. But as I was talking to my doctor, I told him I was going to do a diet, and I said I'd come back in 30 days and let him know if I was going to do the angiogram. But so March 2007, I started a whole food plant-based diet for 30 days following the McDougall program. And after 30 days, my biomarkers improved. My cholesterol dropped 20 points, blood pressure dropped, but I was still on the medications. So I was still doing that. So I went back to the doctor. Also, I lost 6 pounds in the process, which wasn't my goal. I mean, it just came off naturally. So I wasn't looking for that, but it happened. And then my doctor, I told him what I did. I told him about Dr. McDougall, all that. He rolled his eye, didn't really seem to be interested. But he just said, keep up the good work. And that's the last time I saw him. So in June 2007, I decided I need some more medical advice on how to get off the medications. So Dr. McDougall had a 10-day living program in Santa Rosa, California, where he becomes your doctor for 10 days and teaches you about the real causes of chronic diseases, lifestyle changes, gets you off medications. It took me off all my meds day one, basically, June 2007. In those 10 days, I lost 4 pounds. My cholesterol came down and blood pressure was normal. So it's an amazing 10 days for me. And there's other participants in the 10-day program and had similar results. Average weight loss was 3 pounds. Well, we ate unrestricted amounts of food, which is good. And everybody's cholesterol dropped several points. Blood pressures in patients with hypertension dropped. And 90% of the patients were off blood pressure and diabetic medications, which really kind of amazed me because there's probably 22 in our class. And there's type 2 diabetics, there's heart disease, there was autoimmune diseases, overweight, and just a lot of different reasons people came to the program. But everybody had remarkable results, and I saw the type 2 diabetics get off their meds and blood sugars drop within 10 days, which was eye-opening to me, truly a life-changing experience in just 10 days. So that kind of set me on a path to reverse my heart disease, regain my health. And today I'm 35 pounds lighter, maintained the weight for the past 13 years. Cholesterol is below normal every year. Blood pressure is normal. And I truly thank Dr. McDougall and his family. He's my mentor and hero. And I'm also a star McDougall. He has a lot of his patients and people who follow his program, or he puts them in the star McDougall group where you tell your story and you become one of his followers, basically. So I'm glad for that and honored to be that. And now I changed my career to nutritionist. I was in IT for 40 years, but I learned so much in those 10 days. And I just wondered why Western or conventional medicine doesn't know about this and why people get well in just a short period of time. So that really piqued my interest. And I started reading books like the China Study and all those other ones, and really had an interest in nutrition. So I went back to school and got my certifications and everything. So it's truly gratifying to see people take control of their health. So that's about me. We'll move on now to here's what we'll talk about today: understanding the primary cause of type 2 diabetes and dietary intervention programs and studies and success stories, and why a plant-based diet works for diabetes, and some steps to transition to a plant-based diet for type 2 diabetes. And basically, you don't really have to be diabetic, but you can use the diet for anything. And nutrients that you have in plant food, and talk a little about calorie density, and just wrap it up with final thoughts. Here's a snapshot of what it looks like today in the United States. Over 34 million people have diabetes. It's 1 in 10. And 1 in 5 don't know they have it, which is kind of amazing. And 88 million are pre-diabetic, and that's 8 in 10 that don't know they have it. And the medical cost for diabetes is really just skyrocketing, $327 billion. And the medication costs are 2 times more than non-diabetics. and your risk factors for having type diabetes is really high for other complications: blindness, kidney failure, heart disease, strokes, and leg and feet problems with neuropathy. So it's really things that's really taken off in this country. It's unfortunate. Lifestyle point here is just that there has been over 90% increase in type 2 diabetes in the second half of the 20th century, and it's all pretty much linked to lifestyle. And children born after 2000, 33% and 39% of women will develop type 2 diabetes. And type 1 diabetes is optimized with the lifestyle intervention program. And remission of type 2 diabetes can be achieved with lifestyle intervention. And type 2 diabetes is largely preventable with lifestyle intervention. What kind of lifestyle changes do we recommend? And this is also recommended by a lot of the plant-based doctors. It's diet, of course, nutrition, which we recommend, of course, a plant-based diet. And stress relief, which is real important, especially nowadays with the pandemic and everything. We really need to take some self-care, either through meditation, yoga, just walking, listening to music. Just take some time for yourself, 10, 15 minutes during your day, and just kind of de-stress and disconnect from the world. And that's going to help you a lot. And then also we've talked about love and support from family, friends, and community. We need that, even though during the pandemic, it's kind of difficult, but still stay connected to your loved ones. And also just movement. We talk about movement, just walking, biking, yoga, whatever you like to do, just move. That'll keep you, keep you healthy and well too. So, and this is kind of the model that you look at a lot of the new docs, the lifestyle medicine doctors like Dr. McDougall and Dr. Esseltine, many more out there that are using lifestyle first and medication as a last resort. So, and diabetes is a multifactorial disease, meaning it has many components, genetic component and epigenetic component, which is really the science of that your genes aren't your destiny. You can change them like a light switch off or on with lifestyle changes. And the lifestyle factors we talked about: diet, exercise, stress, and just habits, and environmental factors play into it, and microbiome, which is starting to be more prevalent. We're starting to learn more about microbiome and how the gut health really affects your overall health. Here's some of the mechanics behind diabetes. Of course, insulin is made in the pancreas and it goes into the bloodstream. And people with type 2 diabetes is the most common type, generally have enough insulin and at the early stages of the disease. However, the cells become resistant to it. That leaves too much glucose in the bloodstream where it causes the problem. Our bodies turn starchy foods and sweet foods into glucose for our muscle cells to use for fuel. And insulin is a hormone that's made in the pancreas, like I said, and ushers in the glucose into the cells to produce the energy. And insulin resistant, I'm sure you heard this term, it's an underlying form of all diabetes. And it's a condition which primarily affects your muscles, liver, and adipose tissue, which is your fat tissues. And many think that diabetes is caused by excess intake of sugar and candy. While eating these sweets and artificial sweeteners, drinking soda can certainly increase your risk, but development of insulin resistance and diabetes, in most cases, it's caused by excessive fat intake, and which we'll get into in detail. But the most important thing you can do if you have diabetes is understand that diabetes is caused by fat metabolism disorder, which results in a glucose metabolism disorder. And at the heart of all forms of diabetes is insulin resistance, a condition fueled primarily by the intake and accumulation of excess fat across many tissues. So insulin resistance and glucose is sugar, and comes from the carbohydrates. There's a molecule which can be used by every tissue in the body for immediate energy, and limiting the intake of carbohydrates results in a consumption of high protein fat diets, which promotes increased fat storage and exacerbates insulin resistance. And eating large quantities of fat directly blocks the action of insulin in the muscles and the liver, and we'll get into that. We'll show you some pictures of that. And there's a term called insulin sensitivity, which means that you're taking in the glucose into your tissues just fine. And that's a good thing. And it's just the opposite of insulin resistance. So you're getting the glucose, which you need in your cells for energy. So that's just the normal process your body's trying to do. And it refers to sensitive body cells are in response to insulin. And high insulin sensitivity allows your cells to use the blood glucose effectively and reducing your blood sugars in your bloodstream. Here's what's happening inside your cells. This kind of gives you an idea that glucose is in your bloodstream, floating around after your meal. Then the pancreas produces the insulin. It's like a lock and key. This is a key. Insulin's the key. It goes into the cell and kind of gets in these receptors and lets the glucose in right there. So, and then these other little yellow things here are intramyocellular lipid. That's fat in your cells. And you don't want a lot of that. And then we'll see a demo how that the fat gets out, and that'll reduce the preventable diabetes. So here's an example of a normal cell. You see the glucose floating this is in the bloodstream, the red ones, and the blue ones is insulin. It's kind of lock and key again. When it's working properly, the insulin unlocks it, the glucose goes into the cells. So everything's working fine here. But the insulin resistant cell, well, the glucose is floating again, the insulin also, but some of it gets in and some of it doesn't. You can see these gold ones. It's like what happens is, again, the leak and lock analogy is it gets gummed up. It's like a gum in the lock, you can't open it. So these yellow ones are all gummed up. It bounces off, goes back into your bloodstream, and thus your blood sugars go up. And that's when people do blood sugar readings, that you get a high reading. That's because you got too much glucose in your bloodstream. And it's because of insulin resistance, and that's caused by the fat in the cells. Okay, I'm going to show you a short little video here. This is kind of funny, actually, from Ann Esselstyn. I don't know if you're familiar with the Esselstyn family. They do a lot of wonderful work in the plant-based world. Their father, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, wrote books, Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, and done many studies at that. Rip Esselstyn is the son. He's an ex-firefighter who really goes around the country teaching people about plant-based nutrition. And Ann Esselstyn is a registered nurse. And this demo kind of gives you a picture, just what I explained, but in kind of in a humorous way, which you'll understand. I think it's about 5 minutes, so enjoy this. Oops, sorry. Try again.
Actually, for the first one, let's talk about what happens in regular healthy normal people. Okay, people who do not have type 1 or type 2 diabetes. Okay, they eat food in their stomach, chomp, 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 they break it down, and they break it down into all kinds of stuff. But we're looking at glucose today. So glucose molecules are what we break it down into. Hopefully you can see my table. If you can't see my table, please angle your head because there's a lot of table action today. Glucose molecules out of your stomach into your bloodstream, flowing through the blood. So all of us healthy people, sugar is flowing through our blood, and sugar wants to get into our, can you read the name in here? Cells. Sugar has to get into our cells for us to function. It's the only thing your brain eats, glucose. That's it. I don't care what anyone from paleo tells you. Your brain only eats glucose. Same with your muscles. So this cannot just go, hey, let's go, boom. There's a special thing that happens in all of us. A molecule called what? Insulin says, hey, boom, boom, boom. Time to transport you guys over to the cell. Here we go. Let's drop off. Hey, have a great day. Okay, feel great. There you go. Off to tennis, off to swimming. There you go. Off to sit in your class and listen to people talk all day. But you need to have this transport molecule to get the sugar out of the bloodstream and into the cells. This person feels good, not achy, shaky, old, hot, whatever they're feeling when they get, and then they need blood in their cells. So that's a normal, healthy way things function. Okay, let's go to a type 1 diabetic now. Okay, chomp, chomp, they eat food, they get blood, sugar in their vessels. Type 1 diabetics do not make trucks. They don't make insulin. That's the problem. So they can't get the sugar into the cells because they don't have the truck to come over and dock in. So they have to get insulin somehow injected into their body so that they function. Type 2 diabetes is a little different. And just ignore this little sleight of hand. Okay. The type 2 diabetics, chomp, 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 we food breaks down into glucose in our bloodstream, in our bloodstream. Along comes insulin. Yes, type 2 diabetics, no problem. They make insulin. Not a problem. They make insulin. They go, hey, everybody, let's go. Time to go into the cells, drop off for the good. Beep, 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 drop off. Beep, 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 drop off. Beep, 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 beep. Here we go. Beep, beep, beep. Okay, what's the blood sugar level look like still? What's the blood sugar level look like still? It's still high. The cells are glucose resistant. The pre-diabetic. What is this stuff? This is like one of the fanciest words I'm going to use today. This is intramyocellular lipid. Intra meaning within, myo also cellular lipid fat. So this literally is, for some reason, like our family is really good, for example, at making white hair. We're really good at that. We're so good. Some people are really good at laying down intramyocellular lipid. It just means that hamburgers, French fries, extra virgin and virgin olive oil, canola oil, corn oil, olive oil, dairy, butter, eggs, yogurt, meat, chicken, fish, lamb, pizza, that. You know what I'm doing here. All this stuff is greasy that you can feel on your hand. It coats, it's like wax. It coats your food, it coats your body, it coats these receptors where insulin wants to dock. So somebody who stops eating all this canola oil, olive oil, do I need to name all these things again? They stop eating it. This is what happens actually. They stop eating it and they say, oh my goodness, my blood sugar levels are getting so much better as I'm eating a plant-based diet. Well, it's because they're literally getting the gunk out of the gunners. They're getting the hair out of the drain. They're getting the intramyocellular lipid out of these receptors. Give me another metaphor. They're getting the plaque junk out of the trunk. They're getting the plaque off their teeth. Do you see how it's so easy to understand the difference between type 1 diabetes, type 2, and why you guys are so healthy and you're functioning, and when your friends or your family members or you yourself who may be struggling with type 2 diabetes, when you start eating a plant-based diet, an oddly good sign is that you go hypo. It means that you're going, wow, and you're so clean, all the sugar's getting into your cells and you're ready to go, so your blood sugar's getting low. If you're on medication, ratchet that medication back. Tell your doc, like, hey, feeling better, losing weight, tell them whatever plan you're on, or don't tell them, but just let them know that they need to work on your medication. Are we good with diabetes?
So there you go. It kind of gives you a better explanation. It's kind of funny. And sorry, that was Jane Nestleton, not Ann Nestleton. Ann's the mother. So she's pretty funny. That gives you a good, really, again, it's the fat in the cells that's causing a lot of this. And here's the different types of diabetes that we know today is the type 1 diabetic. Of course, the pancreas no longer makes any insulin, and somewhere along the way it gets damaged. And there's a lot of theories about it that during it used to be called onset child diabetes type 1 because it usually happened during childhood where their pancreas got damaged somewhere, somehow environmentally, not real sure yet. And there's a new one they call type 1.5 diabetes, which is interesting, where the pancreas produces insulin, but not enough. It's damaged somehow. And I actually had a client who was diagnosed with type 2, but he was on insulin and a lot of oral medications, and I think it damaged his pancreas, and he turned into a type 1.5 diabetic, and he had to stay on insulin. So that's one of those things that's not known why that happens. But also there's pre-diabetic, when your blood sugar levels are in 100 to 125 range. And we'll talk more about the blood levels. And type 2, of course, the pancreas produces enough insulin, but the cells, again, going through that insulin resistance stage, they're not getting into the cells. So it bounces off and stays in your bloodstream. So that's the type 2. And gestational diabetes, of course, is with women who are pregnant. Typically, they get a lot of women get that every now and then. So And here's the blood test that you get levels of diabetes. A1C test, which is kind of an average 3-month average test. It kind of sees what the average blood levels are after 3 months. And fasting plasma glucose is your typical blood test when you go to the doctor and you're just getting a regular blood 12-hour fast blood test. And there's an oral glucose tolerance test, which is a little different, where you take a blood test and then they have you drink this solution, and then they come back 2 hours later and they retest you, and basically these are the scores you get. So the ranges are diabetes, pre-diabetes, and normal. And A1C, if it's 6.5 or above, they say you're diabetic. If it's 5.764, you're pre-diabetic. And if it's normal, it's usually 5 or lower. And the fasting glucose, if you're over 126, then you're said be diabetic. 100 to 125 is pre-diabetic, and normal is usually below 100. And the oral glucose 200 above is diabetic, 140, 199 is pre-diabetic, 139 or below is normal. So these are the ways. Now, I would recommend, though, if you, in fact, I had a client who was diagnosed as pre-diabetic on the fasting glucose, and his doctor put him on metformin, which is a diabetic medication, too soon. I thought he was only like 110, which is kind of borderline. But I recommend to do a retest. I mean, one test is just a snapshot. Make sure they may take several tests to really determine it. So be careful with that. Don't just let the doctor give you medication because he said you're pre-diabetic, and it may not be. So that's something to be aware of. But yeah, he was on metformin, which isn't really has a lot of side effects. So be careful with that. This kind of shows you where we're heading as far as our meat intake and causing a lot of these chronic diseases today. We used to eat 1909, 123 pounds of meat per person a year. And now 2000 actually is going down, which is good, a good thing, but still consuming a lot of meat. But chicken's on the rise. So we're getting more chicken in our diet. And since 1909, only 10 pounds per person, compared to 60 pounds in 2006. And now it's going down a little bit, but still it's a lot of chicken. And the chicken people think it's healthier, but it really has almost the same nutritional profile as meat, red meat, it's cholesterol, saturated fat. So it's really not the health food. And I thought it was a healthier food before I became plant-based. And I ate a lot of chicken and fish. And then cheese consumption is just skyrocketing anymore. There's cheese on everything, it seems like. You see on TV, 3 pounds of cheese back in 1909, 8 pounds now. You can see what's happening. So it's going up. And the standard American diet is not helping either. You can see this chart, 63% of our standard American diet food is just fast food, refined grains, oils, sugars. So we're eating that a lot. 25% is the animal products, dairy, eggs, fish, poultry, seafood, and dietary cholesterol and fat. So you're 25%. And standard American diet, people are only eating like 12% of veggies and whole grains. And half of that is French fries. So we're not eating enough. So it's 88% processed and animal foods. So that's part of the problem. This map really kind of shows you the obesity rates and diabetes rates from 94 to 2015. You can see as the darker it gets, the higher the obesity rates go up. And this is 2015. I think today it's almost 35% obesity rates in the country. And Colorado's pretty good, actually. It's one of the healthier states, but still it's going up. Diabetes, same thing. It's just 94 is pretty low. 2000, you can see in 2015, it's getting higher. So it's really, think about it, it's really prevalent in this country, and it's kind of an epidemic stage in my mind. If you talk to a lot of doctors, that's what they think what's happening too. And it is a comprehensive solution with a whole food plant-based diet. It does help with cancer, autoimmune disease, Alzheimer's, muscular degeneration, vascular diseases, heart disease. So it really is a multifactorial approach to health and wellness. I want to talk about a few success stories here to show you what the outcomes are when you really do switch to a whole food plant-based diet. First one here is John McMahon. I'm not sure you heard of him, but he created a docuseries called I Thrive, Rising from the Depths of Diabetes and Obesity. And it came out in 2017. And he has CDs on. I think you can look it up and find it. But anyway, he was morbidly obese, 312 pounds, neuropathy. He was in bad shape. And he's early 50. He's only like 52 years old at the time. But he took this on himself to go around the country and talk to many of the physicians, scientists, and chefs in the plant-based movement and document all this, interviews, and it's a series of interviews, and where he wanted to get the answers why type 2 diabetes is an epidemic. And along the way, he started to change his diet, transition to whole food plant-based diet, and he had amazing results in just a few months. And here's an example before and after 2017, and here he was in 2018. Amazing. And here's his results. And his neuropathy is so bad, he had to wrap his feet up and walk in a boot all the time. So it's terrible. So at the start of his lifestyle change, his diabetes was complex, insulin resistance high, A1C was 7.2, fasting glucose 165, oral glucose test 202. It's all diabetic range. Weight was 312. His cholesterol was 187, which is surprising because that's below normal, and it's pretty good. It must be a genetic thing with him. And typically you'll see that go up with the typical diets, like the standard American diet. Triglycerides were high. That's the fat in the blood, and inflammation, but his body was inflamed. And neuropathy was totally pronounced. In fact, he tells a story about sitting around a fire pit with his friends, and he burned his feet and didn't even know it. And he went in the house, they were all bloody. He had to unwrap it, but it's terrible, the neuropathy he had. And 5 months later, reversed his diabetes, pre-diabetes, insulin resistance was minor. His A1C is 4.9, that's normal range. Fasting glucose 81, normal. Oral glucose 124, normal. And he dropped almost 100 pounds in just 7 months. And cholesterol was way down. So amazing results. And here's John. He spoke at our 2018 Plant-Based Health and Wellness Summit in August of 2018. His picture of Seth, AJ, and I. And John, he looks great. And he looked amazing. He gave a great presentation and very inspiring, his story. And he really tries to help other people with diabetes try to change the whole food plant-based diet. So that's an amazing story. And there's two other stories here I want to talk about. Is type 1 diabetic success. Robbie Barbaro and Cyrus Gambada. These guys are amazing. They're young too. They're type 1. At the age of 12, Robbie was diagnosed type 1 diabetic. And while changing to a plant-based diet, he eats fruit every day. His A1Cs never exceeds 6.4, and his blood glucose is stable and easy to manage. And Cyrus, after adopting a plant-based diet, in 2002, he reduced his insulin by 40%, which is amazing. And eats about 100 grams of carbs a day, and his blood glucose is normal. And they are the co-creators of Mastering Diabetes method and trying to help people reverse diabetes, type 1, type 2. And they've helped over 10,000 people improve their metabolic health using a low-fat, plant-based whole food nutrition with intermittent fasting and exercise. And they got a book out, just came out a while back, called Mastering Diabetes. I recommend that. It's a really good book, and that's Robbie now eating all this wonderful food. And their website is masteringondiabetes.org. And there's a lot of good stuff there, some recipes, really good recipes too. And they also do some coaching and stuff like that. So I would check that out. Okay, let's talk about some dietary intervention trials that are out there, that the evidence behind why it reverses diabetes type 2. There's the Adventist Health Study 2. There's over 60,000 participants over the age of 30 in 2002, 2006. And the body mass index, which is the weight with non-vegetarian, semi-vegetarian, pesco-vegetarians, lacto, ovo-vegetarian, and vegans. As you can see, the vegan group had the best rate. This is the normal rates of BMI, and this is the overweight categories. So they lost weight at a quicker than the others. Type 2 prevalence of diabetes, of course, the vegan group, they're better. I won't spend a lot of time on these, but basically the point is that the vegan group or the plant-based group outcomes, results were always better. And Dr. Neil Barnard, if you're not familiar, PCRM, Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, did some studies where he took two groups, a vegan group and an ADA, which is the American Diabetic Association group, with their diet, and reduced the A1Cs, the LDL, bad cholesterol, but the vegan group had a better, better outcomes than the ADA group. So again, evidence. And here's kind of some of the results. The red is the ADA and the blue is the vegan group. And you can see they're lower after 22 weeks. And the A1C also, all participants, the vegan group, and the body weight, the losing weight. So all that's good. And the LDL dropped really good for the vegan group. And then the weight control, of course, dropped. And they also did a study, Dr. Bernard, with Geico, corporate study, and they went to 10 work sites and 292 participants. They're either overweight or type 2 diabetic. And there's some of the results. Weight loss after 18 weeks dropped pretty well. The A1C control group stayed same. Intervention group went down after 18 weeks. So it really does show the evidence. And the NIH had a study where 49 participants on plant-based diet and 50 were on American Diabetes Association diet. Again, A1Cs dropped more than the ADA group, and the LDLs dropped, and medications required dropped quite a bit on the plant-based side. So the weight drops. So you can see that it really works if you stick with it. Some dietary approaches. You heard about low-carb diets, of course, the plant-based diets or the vegetarian diets, and American Diabetes Association diet. The low-carb diet, they avoid grains, sugars, starchy vegetables, and they focus on high-protein foods. Allows low-carbohydrate vegetables, carbohydrates amounts vary, and grains are avoided. But there's many risks with it, increased mortality rate, increased risk for cardiovascular disease. Long-term effects are unknown because there's not a lot of studies on these low-carb diets yet. Increased meat consumption also increases the prevalence of type 2 diabetes. So we try to avoid those low-carb, even though they're selling, they're pretty popular, I know, but the keto diet and all those. And the American Diabetic Association is starting to recognize plant-based eating now. There is an option on their website as a way to manage diabetes. But some of their diet still promotes a lot of animal products, fish, seafood, poultry, some dairy, and limited amounts of beef and pork. So it's getting better. They're still not where the plant-based diet is. So what is why the plant-based diet works? It's just more effective than the standard recommendations you get out there in randomized control studies, and it reduces the risk for heart disease, cancer, obesity, and other diseases. Also increases fiber intake, which really helps control blood sugar. We'll get into a little bit of that. So put it into practice is basically following this, which is a low-fat, whole food, plant-based diet. Basically, it's centered around whole, unrefined plants and minimally refined plants. Try to stay away from the processed foods as much as possible. It's based on fruits, vegetables, the tubers, starchy vegetables, whole grains, and legumes. Plenty of spices to enhance the flavor. And then use of simple sugars and salt sparingly. Try to avoid those as much as possible, especially if you're diabetic. And we exclude all animal products, of course, red meat, the poultry, dairy, eggs, fish. All those are toxic levels of fat and cholesterol, high in protein, and have harmful agents and harmful chemicals in them too. And the last one is the oils. And this is where people struggle, I think, when they talk about plant-based diets with the oils. We don't use any oil at all. We cook with water or vegetable broth. But these diets, the oil is 100% fat. It's just liquid fat. It increases body stores, fat stores. It also depresses immune function and can contribute to many chronic diseases. And we'll get into that. And I think it's important we talk more about the oil part because people just don't understand it. They think it's a health food, olive oil. We've been selling, the Mediterranean diet and all that. But the Mediterranean diet is because they're eating more vegetables and fruits, not because of the oil. But anyway, Dr. Cottle Esseltine, the author of Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, says no oil. He's emphatic about that. Not even olive oil, which goes against a lot of the advice that's out there, so-called good fats. And the reality is that oils are extremely low in terms of nutritive value, no fiber, no minerals, and 100% fat calories. Like 1 tablespoon of olive oil is 120 calories. So you're just eating a lot of fat. But the monounsaturated and saturated fat contained in oils is harmful. And the reason we avoid those is causes injury to the endothelial layer of your lining of your arteries and your blood vessels, which is a gateway to vascular disease. So it doesn't matter. Olive oil, corn oil, coconut, or canola oil, they're all bad. Actually, coconut's the worst, but they're marketed as healthy. It has more saturated fat than lard or butter, if you believe that. I think it's 45% for lard and then maybe 80, 90% for coconut oil. So don't buy the hype. Again, there's some studies that prove all this tend to worsen the endothelial function, which impairs the blood flow. So the Dr. Robert Vogel, who did a study of ingesting fat and oils and stiffen the arteries and ability to dilate it, it was impaired after ingesting 3 types of oils. They did a flow-mediated dilation, which is a FMD, which is just kind of an non-invasive procedure that they put a cup on your arm. They watch the blood flow through ultrasound through your arteries. And the subjects were randomly given a potato soup with 1 of 3 different types of oil: olive, soybean, and palm. And the FMD was performed and blood samples taken and established the lipid profiles and plasma glucose levels. And all types of oil, including olive oil, resulted in similar acute endothelial impairment, which means the blood flow was slowed down. The arteries didn't dilate. So the conclusion was there's no difference was found in the acute adverse effect of the ingestion of different vegetable oils on the endothelial function. And all the vegetable oils, fresh and deep fried, produced an increase in triglyceride plasma, the fat levels in healthy subjects. Here's another study. Did the FMD again with digestion of a fat meal with a 3-hour decline in subjects ingested traditional meat, hamburger, and French fries or cheesecake. And there's 2 groups. One group was given the fast food with 900 calories and 50 grams of fat. The other group was fed a breakfast of 900 calories, no fat. In the no-fat group, the arteries bounced back to normal, as you would think, and measured before the meal. In the high-fat group, the arteries took significantly longer to return to normal. Now, they return to normal after a few hours, and that's typically what happens anytime you eat a high-fat meal. So over time, I think you realize you're accumulating all this, and not one meal is not going to hurt you, but over time, if you eat a lot of that, it's not a good thing. And this little picture shows you, if you're familiar with the movie The Game Changers, came out a few months ago. These plant-based athletes documentary. They had these college athletes eat 2 burritos, one a plant-based burrito, one a meat burrito, chicken burrito. And this is the blood test after they ate a black bean burrito, and the fat usually rises to the top. And you can see it's clear. You can see right through that in the black bean burrito. With the chicken burrito, though, it's a little cloudy there. So the fat is really, that's what's in your bloodstream. So that kind of shows you what the fat does in your blood. So let's go a little over. I'm sure you heard this before, a lot of you. Food groups we recommend: the starches, the potato, sweet potatoes, yams, whole grains, brown rice, barley, all legumes, squashes, leafy greens, carrots, zucchini, all that is good, and all types of fruit. So that's kind of what we focus on. Of course, these foods are scientifically proven to provide optimal, balanced nutrition, therefore an ideal for all human beings. And because they have high complex carbohydrate content and low fat content, they are ideal for weight loss too. And they contain all the autoimmune boosting antioxidants you want, phytochemicals, all that stuff we hear about that are preventing of many chronic diseases. They have all these vitamins and minerals, and animal foods are exceedingly low and devoid of all these antioxidants. Again, you're not getting it with this, so you're getting all that fat. So what are some of the benefits of a plant-based diet? There's numerous: lower cholesterol, blood pressure, blood sugar. They prevent and reverse heart disease, and that's been proven by many studies. Prevent and reverse type 2 diabetes. There's proof for that. Healthier weight and weight loss, of course. Lower risk of cancers, may slow progression of certain types of cancer. Improve symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis. Fewer medications, that's the goal. And lower food costs. It's not really that expensive to eat this way. And it's good for the environment, save the planet. And improve digestion and bowel movement, and there's much more. Just to me, it's a holistic approach, and that's the way I look at it. It heals the whole body, not just one thing. It heals every organ throughout the body. So you get the results, because like I have clients that are looking to maybe lower the cholesterol, but all of a sudden their arthritis gets better. They're starting to move their hands and stuff like this. So it's just really a holistic approach to health. And best of all, it can taste good, enjoyable to eat. This chart kind of shows you, here's a recommendation for best foods for success when it comes to reversing insulin resistance, getting all that fat out of your cells like you saw in the demos. It's really getting sugar back in like it's supposed to, getting your blood sugars down. And the optimal side, on this left side here, is all the refined whole foods, which the fruits, the exception of dates and avocados and durian, because if you're a diabetic, you want to avoid the fats as much as possible. Even though they're healthy avocados, but they have an effect on your blood. And non-starchy vegetables, all starchy vegetables, potato, sweet potato, squash, all those root vegetables, all the legumes, they're really exceptional, except soybeans. Again, that's just a processed food, and it's higher in fat. Intact whole grains, minimally processed foods, and herbs and spices. So if you're healthy, this is okay. But if you really want to get that insulin resistance down, you stay in this category. But also limit these foods, which is in small quantities, they're slightly processed, they're higher fat content, even though they're healthy. Whole grains and bean pastas, whole grain cereals, refined grains, rolled oats, barley flakes, those types of things, whole grains, tortillas and breads, avocados, nuts, seeds, coconut meat, soybeans. But you really want to avoid stuff in this column here. Just, of course, all the red meats and chicken, fish, and eggs, and all those products, dairy products, refined oils again, and then just stay away from the table sugars and cane juices, all that fructose syrup stuff. So this is really the picture to really get your reversing not heart disease, but type 2 diabetes. Talk a little bit about calorie density, because this is an important component when you're talking about weight loss, because many diabetics are overweight or obese. Not all. There's several that are just kind of, they're thin, but they still have the diabetes. But this is an important factor for weight loss. And this kind of goes back to that last chart we saw. But what is calorie density? It's just a way to measure energy or calories in food, 1 pound per food. And then like 1 pound of vegetables is only 100 calories. So you can see it's not a lot of calories. 1 pound of ground beef is approximately 1,000 calories, depending on the leanness. But yeah, a pound of vegetables, that's not a lot of calories, but that's why we recommend the starches to keep you full. The calorie-dense foods, the high in calorie density foods, such as fat, or animal-based foods, and refined sugars provide many calories in a small amount of food. That's important. And foods with lower calorie density, like fruits and vegetables we're talking about, provide fewer total calories and greater nutrition in large volume of food, so you can eat more. So all calories are not equal. This next slide, basically, Dr. McDougall does this presentation on stage, and this glass jars are the size of your stomach. So this kind of gives you an idea of a 500 calorie meal in the stomach. Right side's the animal products, and then the left side's the starch. So on this right side, we see like 500 calories of butter isn't taking up much room in your stomach. It's maybe a third, maybe. And red meat's 500 calories of meat takes maybe not even half. And the cheese, 500 calories of cheese takes up quite a bit, but you still have room for other food. And that's where I think you can talk about people overeating. We go to a steakhouse, have a steak, you throw some cheesecake on that, maybe some baked potato with sour cream. So you're basically up your calories from maybe 1,000 to 1,500 calories in one meal, which is quite a bit. And people with obesity and overweight probably eat about 1,500 to 2,000 in one meal, which is really too much. So that kind of gives you an idea why. And these foods are less in nutrients, more fat and cholesterol, less filling. You eat more. And quote Dr. McDougall, the fat you eat is the fat you wear. And on the left side here, we see 500 calories of rice. I don't think anybody's going to eat that much, but it just gives you an idea. You're getting full, and 500 calories of corn, you're pretty full, and potatoes, you're overflowing. You're just stuffing. There's receptors in line in your stomach tells your brain, I'm full, I can't eat anymore when it gets to the top. So basically, you're taking in less calories, but getting more nutrients, and fill the stomach with fewer calories, satisfy your hunger drive, and there's no cholesterol in these. And then your fiber intake is very important, especially if you're diabetic. Most health authorities recommend the intake of 25 to 35 grams per day. That's the minimal, and an optimal will be 40 grams. And the average American only eats about 10 to 15 grams a day, which is really not a lot. People following a whole food plant-based diet typically go from 40 to 60, sometimes 100 grams a day, which is quite a bit. And if you're not eating a plant-based diet, or transitioning, increase your fiber slowly, because if you're not getting enough, and take the water, but because you'll get a lot of bloating and stuff. You take too much fiber initially if you're not used to it, but it's very important. And here's some examples. Beans is about 15 grams of fiber per cup. Vegetables, 4 grams per cup. Fruits, 3 grams per cup. And fiber helps boost the immune system and is a secret weapon to gut health. And we hear a lot about gut health now. And actually, fiber is a prebiotic food. It feeds the microbiome, because your microbiome is just the good bacteria. And that's what feeds off. It eats the fiber, basically. It's a prebiotic. So it really helps the digestion, helps your immune system. So it's really important you get the fiber in your diet. This shows you kind of like all calories are not equal. You can see 1 gram of fats, 9 calories, 1 gram of proteins, 4, and carbohydrates, 4 also. So you're taking in less calories eating these two. And like about 50 grams potatoes is only 200 calories. That's probably a medium-sized potato. And 50 grams of fat is 450. It's over doubled. So you're getting the more calories. So to wrap it up here, calorie density is really a common sense approach to sound nutrition, is cornerstone to good health. It's the simplest way to lose and manage your weight for life. More food, fewer calories, and easy to understand and follow. And just these simple principles will increase your amount of food on your plate while decreasing your overall caloric intake and never go hungry. And at the same time, you optimize your overall nutrient intake with your vitamins, your minerals, your fiber, protein, essential fats, antioxidants, all that stuff you're getting with calorie density foods. Studies have shown that diets based on low calorie density foods tend to be healthier and more effective for weight management. And this chart kind of shows you kind of what that other chart we had. These are more of the whole foods you want to stay up to keep the calorie dense foods to lose weight. And these down below, higher fat foods, of course, the meat and dairies in here, but the avocados and some of the nuts and seeds and butter, and all oils are 4,000 calories per pound. So you avoid these or limit these. If you're healthy, you can bring in the avocados and nuts and seeds, that's fine. But if you're really trying to lose weight, I would try to stay above that line. And this another chart that kind of gives you the same picture. Foods here on this side are the low calorie dense foods, and these are the higher calorie dense foods. So talk a little bit about spontaneous healing. It's just your body has this amazing capacity to heal, especially when you give it the right food, like a plant-based diet. And it repairs itself immediately, even if you have chronic diseases such as heart disease, type 2 diabetes. It happens immediately. So you don't have to wait once you start eating this way. And here's a definition for disease to progress. Injury must outpace healing. Reversing disease is simply a matter of turning the scenario around. To be specific, stop the ongoing injury, which is usually self-induced by lifestyle, mostly. If you're healthy, you become healthier if your body is using nutrients to prevent any chronic disease in the future. and let the body heal itself with the right food. So, and also incorporate all those lifestyle changes we talked about: exercise, sleep, and community, and all that, and stress relief. That's important too. And I love this definition. It's by T. Colin Campbell, the author of China Study in Whole, Rethinking the Science of Nutrition. Nutrition is a collective thing, a holistic idea that works in your body like a symphony, providing nutrients packaged by nature in a single food. And that's very important. And think of it like an apple. And what is about the apple that promotes health? Well, vitamins, minerals, potassium, dietary fiber, vitamins A, smaller amounts of minerals, but like vitamin E, but a whole host of other nutrients, and the antioxidants, phytochemicals, and the phytochemicals are still being defined. There's over 1,000 right now that sure just help the body. So it's important to let the body handle all that. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So the body has its intelligence. Don't try to isolate or reduce everything down to a single nutrient. So let the body decide. It'll know how much vitamin C to take. It'll know how much vitamin B to take. So I think too much in our society, we get too focused on reductionism and reducing everything to a single nutrient. I need vitamin C. I need this. Well, let the body decide with the whole foods. You'll be better off. Just kind of go through some of the vitamins that you'll get in a whole food plant-based diet. And today, most Americans eating the standard American diet are vitamin and mineral deficient because of the unwasted processed and processed foods. This is why many take supplements to fill the real or perceived deficiencies they have. But whole foods have all the nutrients that the human body requires: the carbohydrates, the protein, the fat, the vitamins, minerals, fiber, all that, and sufficient calories. So there should be no need to add supplements when following the whole food plant-based diet, with this caveat. The two vitamins that are not produced by plants, vitamin D, B12, and you get vitamin D from the sunlight, or for some fortified cereals, and B12, we have to take a supplement. The vitamin D, of course, that's kind of depends, especially if you're elderly or today we're kind of shut in with the pandemic. So there's a need for vitamin D supplementation in some cases, but you can get that measured and see if you're okay. But for the most part, I don't take any vitamin D. I try to get out in the sun for 10 to 15 minutes during the day and get my B12. You take a supplement, and you only need 5 micrograms of B12 a day. That's pretty low. They only sell, the lowest dosage I've seen for B12 is 500 micrograms. So if you take too much, it's not going to hurt you. So it's for the brain and nervous system, and you need it. You have to have it. So be sure to take that. And here's just a kind of a chart to show you that once you eat a variety of different fruits and vegetables, all the vitamins are there. So it's not just in one plant or another. Carrots has vitamin A, so do sweet potatoes. There's more vitamin C in red bell peppers than in orange. So just eat the diversity of foods, and you'll be getting all the vitamin nutrients you'll need. Again, minerals, the same thing. Calcium, you're not going to be low on any calcium. Leafy greens probably. Beans have a lot of calcium. And I mean, we're getting it from the food and not from milk. And that whole myth about milk is cows get their calcium from the grass, basically. They don't produce it, they eat it from the plant. So you're going to get plenty of potassium, iron, and all that, and things. Just eat a variety of these foods, you're going to be fine. So the optimal diet, this is what I follow, the starch solution, Dr. John McDougall's diet, 70% starch and the rest fruits and vegetables around that, and water. Of course, if you're trying to lose weight, maybe cut that in half to 50, and then that'll starch. But the starch is important to keep you full, like potatoes, rice, and beans are going to keep you full, because like you saw before, the 1 pound of vegetables is only 100 calories. And so you're going to be hungry in an hour if you just eat vegetables all the time. So you got to have the starch. That's a very important part. The starch solution. I recommend that book if you haven't read it. So what kind of food do we eat? Basically, steel cut oats. I had that this morning. Talking about fiber, I eat a big bowl of steel cut oats. I like steel cut oats better than the other oats. But there's 4 grams in the quarter cup. I ate 3/4 cups of oats. I already had 12 grams of fiber and a cup of blueberries with another 4 grams. So already I'm already at 16 grams of fiber just in one meal. And so you're well on your way if you start eating this way. Butternut squash medley, this is very healthy. Vegetable stew, we have Kelly, my significant other, has this recipe in the cookbook. Pasta primavera, warming winter squash, creamy corn chowder. These are all good foods, especially in the winter time. So final thoughts, wrap it up here. Just empower yourself, being a good consumer when it comes to your health. Be informed. Again, knowledge is power. Even making small changes in your diet and lifestyle can really make a significant difference in your health and well-being. Don't wait for disease or diagnosis to change. Do it now, because it's a cool thing. People are waking up, I think. If you're transitioning to whole food, plant-based diet, be easy on yourself. Don't beat yourself up. It's a lifestyle change. It's a process, and we want 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But keep going. Trust the food. It works. There's only good side effects to this. There's really no bias. Your body's going to get healthier and better. So it's the food. So Hippocrates had it right. Let food be thy medicine. Let medicine be thy food. So I'll wrap it up here. Just to let you know that a lot of you come to our virtual cooking classes, and I'm going to start doing more of these nutrition classes. And I do nutrition consultation and programs also. And we had an annual health and wellness summit, but not this year because of COVID. But hopefully maybe next year, we'll bring in some more speakers. We've got Dr. Scott Stoll and Dr. McDougall was going to show up this year, but we try to bring in speakers, and it's local, but we had a lot of people from out of state come. Hopefully we can do that again next year. We'll see. It's still unknown. Of course, our wellness summits, just some highlights from that. Chef AJ is there every year. Scott Stoll, book owners are there. Stanzik, she's amazing. Reversed her MS with plant-based diet. John, of course, was there. So my website's in the chat window. You can get my website and everything. So email if you have any questions. I'll stop to share. If you have any questions, we can go through that. Okay. Okay. Anybody have any questions? Can you hear me? You can unmute yourself if you want, or throw through this chat window.
I have a question.
Okay.
What is your opinion of the products, the Beyond Beef or Beyond Burger, the plant-based meat substitute?
Yeah, they're okay. Again, they're a processed food, high in fat, and it depends what you read the ingredients. If it's not really a lot of them aren't plant-based. They're really soy-based, and they are processed, and they're higher in fat. So once in a while, I think it's okay. They're going in the right direction. But a true veggie burger, there's some out there. Engine 2 used to have them, but he stopped producing those, and they're all veggies, no oil. So yeah, I would occasionally eat those, but you try to avoid them if you can. But yeah, they're coming out. I mean, the McDonald's has got one now, I guess, coming out. So, but I guess it's better than a beef burger. So let's put it that way.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there any other classes you'd like to see? Topics?
Hi, I have a question.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Okay, go ahead. Speak up. I can't hear.
Okay, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you now.
Okay, you can hear me. Cool. Hi, I'm Precious.
Hi, Precious.
Thing is, I wanted to ask, there are some fruits and veggies that it seems like it's not healthy for ulcer patients. I don't know if maybe you can do something on that.
You're talking about ulcers?
Yes, ulcers. For example, I hear people say, "Oh, I can't take pineapple, I can't take citrus fruits." So, I don't know. How do we reconcile that?
Well, that's true, and it depends on because that may cause acid reflux and stuff like that. There's the citrus fruits. Some people have to avoid the citrus fruits, but the problem is that they're eating a lot of animal products, which damages some of the stomach lining and the acid. So if you switch to a whole food plant-based diet, that'll correct a lot of that. I have a lot of clients that corrected acid reflux and all that type of stuff, because it does start to damage the esophagus. So yeah, but there are some foods that people on plant-based diets even have to avoid, like citrus fruits. They have to avoid. There's some foods like that you should avoid if they bother you. But yeah, there's some. I might talk about the microbiome and leaky gut. Leaky gut is really one that causes a lot of these issues too with food. That's where the intestine lining gets damaged with a lot of the animal products, and that causes a leaky gut, which gets in your bloodstream, causes a lot of these autoimmune diseases, stuff like that, arthritis, and even diabetes. So that's a lot of digestive issues I'm seeing nowadays. People are going with IBS and colitis and different types of digestive issues people are having. And it starts in the gut. Once you start to heal the gut, and then a lot of these things go away. So I can talk about that sometime. That'd be a good one.
So I have another question. Do you mind?
Sure. Sure.
Okay. Okay. Cool. One thing I noticed on the plant-based diet is that people that, especially heavy menstruation, women that have heavy menstruation, that lose blood easily. So it's not so easy to get in that iron. Even though they are taking veggies and vitamin C together, it's not so easy to get that iron in. And because they're losing a lot of blood, they're getting weak, and it's like you're eating only plants and you're not getting enough nutrients. You look pale. So are there any target foods that people that are that are prone to iron deficiency anemia should eat?
Yep.
Yeah. So thank you.
Yep, more of the leafy greens like broccoli, kale, and all those have a lot of iron. Spinach has a lot of iron, but doesn't get absorbed. And beans have a lot of iron. So the more of the leafy greens will get you the iron you need, and to get that up. But I would say also some iron supplementation. Some people may need that, but I would work with the doctor on that to see what your levels are. But the leafy greens and beans, I think, are the most common to get your iron. I got a question from Vicky. How do you know if the pancreas is producing insulin or not? Well, your blood sugars would go up. You'd be in a, definitely, you would have to take a blood test, and they can find that out through, doctor probably can get a test to do that, I think. But your blood sugar would definitely go up. You'll start to see that if you take a blood test. Okay, any other questions? If not, you can email me. My email address is at the top of the chat window. If you have any questions or you would like some more information, just give me a holler.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
You mentioned that the iron is not absorbed by the body of the spinach.
Yeah, spinach, it's an oxalate thing. It has plenty of iron in it, but the oxalate kind of cancels out the absorption. You'll get some iron, but you don't get a lot of iron from spinach. That's the only plant that does that, but every other one will be fine.
Does that make a difference whether it's raw or cooked?
That doesn't matter. This still has the same nutritional profile. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So I think everybody understands insulin resistant now, you think? How it works? Okay. Well, I'm going to end the meeting then. If there are more questions, if you do have any other further questions, please email me and I'll be glad to answer those anytime, or just want to talk. So I thank you for your time, and enjoy your day, and be well and safe. You take care. Bye-bye.